Another night and another win for your Phoenix Suns. What is going on, Phoenix Suns fans? As you can see on the screen, if you guys are watching a live along on YouTube, I actually have my first guest of this season who is nice enough to join me. This is Timberwolves Talk from Let's Talk Wolves at Twitter, and we're going to introduce him here in a second. He's going to tell us where he's from and what he does. But I do appreciate you being here, man. We're going to wait a few minutes to get some people in here. So tell us where you're from, man. Tell us what you do. Anything you want to link. I'm pretty sure I got your links in the description already, but anything you want to plug, tell us what's up, man.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to be on even after a Wolves loss. I'm from Minnesota in the Twin Cities area. I started a Minnesota blog after graduating college. Didn't really know what to do. Pandemic, and then I was just like, well, what should I do with my degree? Decided to start my own sports blog. Been doing that for the last year or so, where I cover all Minnesota sports: Twins, Vikings, Wild, Timberwolves, and yeah, I mean, you can follow my stuff. It's all pretty much Let's Talk Wolves, Let's Talk Twins, etc. All kind of the same ats.
Just put your Twitter link in the chat, and I'll make sure to add the website in there as well. But seriously, you guys, go check it out. Even if you're not a Timberwolves fan, or if you follow other sports with Minnesota and everything, go check them out. Go check out the website. I even checked out your work, obviously, prior. And Suns fans might be asking, how do you guys know each other? What's up with that? Well, we started kind of tweeting at each other, and I liked what you were saying and everything. We kind of just engaged well, and I'm like, you're really the only Timberwolves fan that I know. And I figured you got your own podcast, you got your own thing going on, so why not get somewhat of an expert, someone who actually covers the Timberwolves and Minnesota for that matter, on my show to give us some insight. And like I said, man, we kind of were talking pre-show that you're probably a little heated right now at your Timberwolves. I thought y'all played hard. I thought y'all fought hard. So, we still got people joining the chat. Thank you to everybody that's in here. We're going to dive into this game in a moment here. But do me a favor, you guys. Absolutely just destroy that like button. Hulk smash that like button. And we will get started with our opening thoughts and reactions. So, I mean, let it out, man. The Phoenix Suns, they got a close win against your Wolves. Your Wolves didn't go away. So what were your kind of just initial reactions from this game?
My initial reactions, I feel like it's more just, I mean, if you watched any of the Timberwolves games, you've kind of noticed they give up a lot of threes. They give up a lot of wide open shots.
Yep.
Offense is very clunky, a lot of sloppy plays. And when you're playing a Suns team that's led by Chris Paul, one of the best game managers in the NBA in league history, they're going to take advantage of it, and they ran in transition, hit a bunch of wide open threes. I don't even know if Cam Johnson missed a shot tonight.
Right. It really didn't seem like it.
Oh, my God. It's like every time you saw a wide open shot, you're like, this is for sure going in. And the Wolves, their three-point shot has not been hitting recently. It really hasn't hit all season, actually. But Suns looked really good. Timberwolves brought the same kind of energy they've been bringing all season. And if they don't really pick that up soon, they're going to find themselves playing from behind pretty quick here, because they play the Milwaukee Bucks on Friday.
Oof.
And I don't know if that's the best bounce back game for them.
Right. You know what? I'm a little disappointed with myself. I don't know if you're much of a drinker, but I forgot to start this show without cracking open my beer. So if you guys are drinking in the chat, let me know what you guys are drinking. Let me take a sip of this, and I'll give you my opening thoughts.
Oh, damn. Yeah, I was going to say, I start every podcast with a beer, and I didn't even bring one in here.
I should have reminded you ahead of time, but, I totally understand your frustrations, and you made a lot of good points, and we're definitely going to dive into the numbers. We're going to look at the box score. Turnovers were a huge thing with me going into this game, and I think I read something or heard something along the lines that if you move the ball against this Timberwolves team, you have a pretty much good chance to win. I thought the Suns did that very well tonight. I don't know what got into Cam Johnson, man, but he was just on absolute fire. 17 at halftime. I think he was 3 for 7 from the three, and then just lit it up. And I even jokingly tweeted at you. I was like, the Timberwolves like to leave him wide open, and they can't seem to stop him. And in all fairness, there were some really good contested shots on him, but it was just his night. He could not miss. And honorable mentions to Mikal Bridges as well, man. Again, it
Yeah.
didn't seem like it just seemed like whatever defender was on Mikal Bridges, he was cutting to the rim, hitting those mid-range shots, couple made threes. The Twins took over tonight. We call them the Twins here in Phoenix, Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson, because they're like best friends. And but they both played well. And you know what? Again, I do want to give credit to your Timberwolves. I thought Anthony Edwards did an incredible job of locking down Devin Booker, even locked down some other Suns players as well. But and from an outsider's perspective, I do think your Timberwolves are going to be very good. I think it's just going to take some time. This is year one of the Rudy Gobert experiment, or should I say the Rudy Gobert gamble? Because you guys really did give up a lot, but let's be real. You're receiving one of the greatest defensive players of all time. So I'll ask you a spontaneous question off the jump. I guess I probably should have asked you this sooner, but what were kind of your thoughts and takeaways? I'm sure you wrote about it. I'm sure you did your podcast and everything. What were your thoughts the moment you found out Rudy Gobert is a Timberwolf?
Well, I was at Target and I got the tweet notification and I was
I would
like,
have freaked out.
yeah, I was freaking out and I was like, I honestly like when it's like one of those trades, you have to like double check if you're actually reading the
Right.
correct information. It's not like one of those like even like seeing the verified like the verified check mark, and you go to Woj's like you're like this is his profile, but I still can't believe that we actually made this trade. They always wanted to find that like rim protecting player with Cat. I just didn't think it would be Rudy Gobert.
Right.
I mean, I love the trade. If it works out, that's like a huge like if you're looking at all those first round picks are probably going to be late 20s. And for a Minnesota team who's been really hit or miss on draft picks, it's really not the worst thing in the world to go all in on a guy, especially when, I mean, let's face it, like Minnesota's not getting free agents to come to Minnesota. They're
Right.
starting to a little bit now because they're
Yeah.
competitive, and that should only improve. But long term, I do like this trade. It's just a little alarming. Last year, the Wolves started 4-9, and granted, they don't have Pat Bev, they don't have Vando, they don't have all those like energy guys, but
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. 4-4 right now, probably going to be 4-5. Not trying to be too pessimistic here, but they are playing the Bucks, and the Bucks are probably going to take advantage of some of the Wolves'
Flaws.
chemistry issues right
Yeah.
now.
Well, you already got a fan here. Andrew says this guy is great. Get him on more. I think we play you November 9th, if I remember correctly. And I'm sure you play you another time after that. So we might have to get you on the show again, man. But thank you to everybody that's in here right now. We appreciate you guys. Live with my guest, Timberwolves Talk. Let's Talk Wolves, or Let's Talk Wolves _Wolves Twitter. Go check him out. Links in the description. I put it in the chat. Go follow him. Check out his podcast, check out the websites, all linked down below in the description. And my whole thing on the Rudy Gobert trade, really just short, is I really think it's a gamble, but I think they in theory think it's going to work, or they would have never made this trade, in my personal opinion. Yeah, you gave up a lot, but you're investing in the now. You have a potential superstar in Anthony Edwards. You got some other guys who we're going to talk about later. We're going to dive into all the players and everything. I think you guys got yourselves a solid team. You just got to work out the kinks. Let's be real. The Phoenix Suns, when they first got Chris Paul, it wasn't the greatest start ever. Even last year, we started off 1-3, and then we ended up winning like 18 in a row. And we had some really bad losses. Trust me. We had some very terrible losses throughout the season that I'm still kicking myself. And I'm not even talking about that Dallas Mavericks playoff series. I'm talking regular season, terrible losses. But it's going to take some time, man. Rudy Gobert, I looked it up earlier. He's got 3 years left on that 5-year deal.
Yeah.
He'll be like an unrestricted free agent in like 2025. I think the Timberwolves really have faith that this is going to work out. I'm not saying y'all are going to win the championship this year or the next, but y'all are building something, and I really like it as a fan of basketball. And again, I said it earlier, Rudy Gobert is one of the greatest defensive players of all time. So you invested in that. Karl Anthony Towns is another, great star right next to him, again, with Anthony Edwards and everything. And I hope it all works out for you guys. So continuing on, one thing that I really took away from this game, man, was the runs. So many runs. The Phoenix Suns couldn't get a shot to go with like early in the game. I think they started off like 0 for 6. Now, in all fairness, the Wolves were 1 for 5 to start the game, but the Wolves defense, again, I give a lot of credit to Anthony Edwards. But then all of a sudden, like the Wolves started to turn the ball over and the Suns would go on runs. I think late in the first quarter, it was a 10-0 run. And I think late in the second half or the second quarter, the Wolves went on their own run. So just any other thoughts, like takeaways from this game? I'm just kind of just looking at some notes. Any other thoughts in terms of this game time? And then we'll dive into the numbers and everything.
Yeah, no, I think the game started out, was it like 1-0 with like, it was like 9, there was like some 9 minutes and it was like
I wrote that
1-0.
down. I was like, at one point, I think the Suns finally got going around the 8:58 mark. It seemed like forever for them to actually get going.
Yeah, and it was like just transition like shots at the
Yep.
rim, and it would just get blocked, and then the other team would try to go down. That would just be, it was, the start of the game was very, very sloppy,
For both
and then
teams.
it started to go into the Phoenix Suns are building off of us like a little run, and then that turns into a bigger run. Minnesota was playing from behind all night, and when they play from behind, at least this season in general.
Keep going. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Like in general, when they've been playing from behind, they start getting a little panicky, and they, like tonight at least, if like Suns fans could see that they're just kind of shooting a lot of desperate threes, or just a lot of, they try to play hero ball in some ways.
That's a good way to put it too. The Suns used to sort of be victims of that, and sometimes they still can be. And again, I feel like with this Timberwolves team, they are still pretty young for the most part, and it comes with experience. Y'all made the playoffs last year. I thought y'all fought really hard in that series too. And it just comes with experience. It comes from learning. It comes from games like this as well. And the Suns got their own flaws that they need to work out. We're going to talk about it later, but when Monty Williams made the trusting, tough decision to keep that bench in, your Timberwolves bounced back and they responded and caught back up into this game. And again, it's just little learning curves like that. So let me share my screen real quick. We'll dive into the numbers and I'll kind of get your thoughts on certain players like your boy Naz Reid and everything. I thought Naz Reid had a really good game.
We love Naz Reid in Minnesota.
Exactly. So on that note, let me see how we look on my end. Okay, we look pretty good. All right. Let me lower this stuff real quick so that people can actually see what we're looking at too. Once again, you guys, joined by Timberwolves Talk. Links down below in the description. Go check him out. Go follow him and go show him some love on Twitter and everything. So Phoenix Suns win 116-107. Am I crazy to say it wasn't the best Rudy Gobert game? I mean, 7 points and 9 rebounds with no DeAndre Ayton on the court. What did you see from Rudy Gobert tonight?
Yeah, in the last game against the San Antonio Spurs, off the top of my head, I think he was 5 for 17. So he's been a little inconsistent. He started off really strong in the first game against the Thunder, and then they're almost just trying to force feed him too much, because I think like when they made the trade, they're like, well, we see a lot more of Rudy Gobert's game. Let's try and get him involved to almost like either make him feel comfortable or to prove everyone wrong. Like, this guy does have more in his bag.
Yeah.
And I think he had like at least like 2 or 3 just drop balls like right in front of the rim that would have been easy layups, dunks, whatever. He's been getting fouled a lot recently at the rim. I don't know, like I didn't watch a ton of Utah Jazz last season, so I'm not sure about his whole free throw numbers on like attempts, but he's been ranging up there in like the 6, 7, 8, whatever. He's been starting to make a little bit more, so maybe the free throw percentage is coming around, but the rebound
7 for
wise,
7 tonight.
Yeah, you say like he's maybe figuring that part out. Rebounding, he's been their best rebounder by far.
Absolutely.
The problem with having Rudy Gobert there, it almost kind of just feels like the other players on the team are giving up on the ball because they're just like, well, Rudy Gobert is probably going to grab that rebound. And that's what I've noticed. I feel like the Suns got a lot of those like 50-50 balls.
Yeah.
And then they turn that into a mid-range shot right there.
I was a little surprised tonight too with just the overall effort. I mean, obviously it's not easy to go up against Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns, but There were times where I thought Cam Johnson played them pretty well. Bismack Biyombo blocked a few shots, got a few boards. I think the Suns kind of gained. Now, you guys won the rebounding battle tonight, obviously, but I thought the Suns put in a pretty damn good effort. Continuing on here, Karl Anthony Towns, 24 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists, 4 turnovers, 4 fouls. You can't stop him. 9 for 18 shooting. Is that pretty spot on with Karl Anthony Towns? How have you been feeling about him so far this season? Is there anything you saw tonight from him that I didn't see? I thought he kind of got it going late in the fourth quarter during that whole bench thing when Monty Williams left our bench in, and even a little bit afterwards. But anything I missed tonight from Karl Anthony Towns?
No, I mean he kind of started off the season slow because
Yeah.
he had the illness, was hospitalized there. He's starting to come through now. His offensive game is picking up. To start out games, he's been passing a lot.
Good.
And then as that fourth quarter hits, that's where his game is sort of
Yeah.
I'm gonna take over offensively. He's just been trying to distribute a lot this year, and I mean it's been working. He's probably their best playmaker, which I don't know if that says more about D'Angelo Russell or just more on Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah, right. No, I mean he looked good to me, and with Rudy Gobert being there now, it kind of because he can be in the paint and everything. We all know what Cat can do. If he's going to be a playmaker, I think that's just another level to his game. I mean, you got Anthony Edwards, D'Lo, probably a few other guys out there that can hit some shots. So, and he did have 7 assists tonight. Speaking of D'Lo, not the best game. Hit a few shots, I guess, but 4 assists to go along with that. I didn't even really notice he was out there too much, to be honest with you.
He's been pretty bad this year.
Yeah, I don't know. If I think you even talked about this once or you tweeted it, you were like, if he could like break out or whatever or have a big season, that would be absolutely huge. I'm not saying they're going to like trade him or anything this year, but you want that potential of an all-star to be there, and there's some seasons and nights where we don't see it, and tonight was one of those nights. I don't know.
Yeah, he was my X factor heading into the season, contract year. Last time he was on a contract year with a pick and roll big. That was the Brooklyn year.
Yep.
We kind of know what happened then. But he's been really bad, and I know just a lot of fans on Twitter are just ready for him to go.
Sounds like Suns fans.
It's just a lot of irrational thinking like the entire game.
I'm sorry to cut you off. I was just going to say, at the same time, you got to hold your players accountable. And it's like, if we had D'Angelo Russell on our team, Suns fans would do the exact same thing. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're totally fine. And I don't even think maybe I'm trying to see here. So yeah, D'Angelo Russell just edged out McLaughlin in minutes, but for the longest time, McLaughlin was out like playing. We saw that in Game 6 where McLaughlin played over D'Angelo Russell down the stretch, and irrationally thinking like this entire night, I was just thinking like, what would the starting lineup look like if Jordan McLaughlin just started and D'Lo came off the bench? It's not going to happen because salary, and they're going to try and make that starting 5 work.
Exactly.
D'Lo is the more talented player, but
but there's always that wonder factor. You just wonder what it would look like. Yeah,
just because J-Mac moves the ball,
right? And he put in a good effort tonight from what I saw from him. But let's move on to Karl Anthony Towns tonight. 40 minutes, 8 for 21 shooting, not the best shooting night, but he did have 5 threes, 24 points, 6 boards, and I thought he played great defense. He was locking down not just Devin Booker, but like everybody, I thought. Now, he did get in a little bit of foul trouble, but again, the effort is there. The dude can score. He hit 2 big threes late when the Suns left their bench in. He was absolutely fantastic tonight. Super explosive, living up, in my opinion, to that number 1 pick. I'm a huge Anthony Edwards fan. I heard I'm not the biggest college guy, but I did a little bit of draft homework. Obviously, that was during the pandemic and everything, but I did my best to learn enough information I could about Anthony Towns. I think he's living up to the hype so far. Sky's the limit, but obviously you're the insider here in terms of Minnesota sports and everything. How are Timberwolves fans feeling about Towns? How do you like him? What did you see from him tonight that I may not have saw? Like, what are you thinking, man?
I'm guessing you mean Edwards?
Yeah, Anthony Edwards, yeah.
I just want to make sure before he's defensively, he's been very good on ball, and he's very confident. He's stated many times that he wants to be all NBA defensive team.
I heard about that.
Yeah, it's just like off ball, that's the issue because loses his man when they cut to the basket way too often. Offensively, he shows up when the lights are on, the matchup is what he wants it to be. If it's like against the San Antonio Spurs or these other teams, there's that possibility he's not going to show up. Back to back nights, he's not going to show up.
Ooh.
It's just like he's for the most part like he is like going to be that guy. It's just like the consistency of whatever is not really working for him at times because I just don't he doesn't get up for those kind of games.
See, the way you described that sort of reminds me, and I'm sorry, Suns fans, don't kill me in the comments here. This sort of sounds a little bit like DeAndre Ayton because we've had that problem since DeAndre Ayton was drafted in 2018. Even a little bit in DeAndre Ayton's college years, I heard that sometimes his motor isn't always there and he's not mentally there for games. Now, again, Ayton's only played a few games this season. He's obviously injured right now. He's looked a lot better, but I'm DeAndre Ayton's biggest critic, but I'm also his biggest fan. And it's like, I'll get on him when he has lazy games. You know what I mean? So the way you were describing Anthony Edwards just now, I had so many Ayton flashbacks. And that comes with maturity. I kind of mentioned this earlier with your Timberwolves. Like, I think growing pains, you got to get some years under your belt. Well, Anthony Edwards is only in his second, third year or whatever. So it's going to take some time, but you're right. Like, he needs to show up consistently. I've always said, show up 9 out of every 10 games. You can have an off game every once in a while. That's fine. You're human beings, but I mean, come on, man. You're a super. Edwards will probably be a superstar in this league. You got to show up each and every single night, man. So
Yeah,
appreciate
exactly.
your insight on that. We've got about 29 people in here. Been live for over 22 minutes now. Make sure to absolutely just destroy that like button, you guys. Share the stream. Live with Timberwolves Talk. Let's talk Wolves. Appreciate you being here, man. Let's keep going down the bench here. Tarian Prince hit a couple shots late. Let me see what else. Naz Reid. This is kind of one guy I wanted to talk about. 16 minutes tonight, 13 points. They said it on the broadcast a couple times. You tweeted it out. Is Naz Reid deserving of more minutes? And what have you seen from him so far?
For sure. And I think a lot of his success is because some of these guys are used to playing with Naz Reid and they're not really I mean, let's face it, not many players are used to playing with a guy like Rudy Gobert. He's kind of a there's not many players like Rudy Gobert, and there's a reason he's an all NBA defensive player of the year. Naz Reid, he's been I mean, he was a lottery like potential pick.
Yeah.
Um slipped to be undrafted, really worked on his body, really transformed his body. So like the talent was always there. It's just like he's really like improved himself. He stays over the summers in Minnesota to work out and stuff. So Minnesota fans love Naz Reid. He's a huge like fan favorite here. He deserves more minutes, and like I get that like you want to play Rudy Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns 48 minutes, like stagger them, and you can always move Kyle Anderson and Torian Prince to the 3 if you really want to. Like
Yeah.
Naz
They
Reid,
can play those. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And like every time Naz Reid has come in, he's played really well, and I think he's been their most consistent player. He's not been their best player because Ants dropped a
Just
couple 30-point
consistent. Yeah.
nights, but like every time he comes in, good things happen. And I think Chris Finch is starting to realize that there is a place for Naz Reid.
Absolutely. And you need guys like that, man. Because one of my biggest concerns with the Suns this year was their bench. And if this Timberwolves team is not only going to make the playoffs, but go far in the playoffs, you got to have a bench, man. And I think Naz Reid has a big part of who could contribute to that potentially.
For
So
sure.
hopefully he gets more minutes. He looked really good tonight. For me, what I saw from him was just effort and just hitting shots. And if you can do that, if I were a head coach, I'd play you a lot. That's how I look at it. Um, any other final quick thoughts? Is there any other players you want to talk about in terms of the Timberwolves? If not, we can kind of jump to the Suns real quick. So any kind of final thoughts in terms of and we'll jump into like the actual team numbers and
Yeah.
everything, but any other thoughts?
Not really. I just want to say that Jalen Noel is a bucket,
There you
and I
go.
hope Phoenix Suns fans have seen it. I know he's not really a household name in the NBA, but if you've watched Minnesota games,
He's a
you
bucket.
know he's fun to watch.
There you go. I like that. All right, continuing on here. I mean, do we even have to talk about Cam Johnson? I mean, 33 minutes tonight, 10 for 17 shooting, 7 made threes, 29 points,
He
three
was incredible.
steals, three assists. And again, I thought that there were moments where he did a really good job guarding Karl Anthony Towns, getting rebounds and everything. I mean, and let me tell you, man, again, as somebody who covers this team, Cam Johnson kind of needed this game. He's been dealing with a few injuries. I don't want to make too many excuses for him, but he's been back. He's been playing, and it kind of seemed like he was struggling to hit his shot. And man, just tonight, he just on fire. And again, the Timberwolves tried everything they could, although they kind of left him open a few times, I thought.
Yeah.
He was incredible, man. 29 points, just absolutely incredible. And then, like I mentioned earlier, Mikal Bridges, 19 points, 7 for 10 shooting. We all know what Mikal Bridges does on defense. Just absolutely incredible. Bismack Biyombo as well. I mean, not the numbers won't tell you, but Bizzy's been stepping up while DeAndre Ayton's been out. 8 points, 4 blocks, 4 rebounds. And again, I thought he did his absolute best on Rudy, on Cat, just being out there, being that presence, blocking shots. Anything from those three that you saw in particular, or really anybody on the Suns roster that you want to talk about? Anything that stood out to you?
Um, I do want to like get to like the whole like center Aiden situation with Biombo. Like I guess we
Yeah,
could do that like in like the further this more
yeah.
game stuff. Cam Johnson, yeah. If you want to get a player back on track, just have him play the Minnesota Timberwolves. They'll get you right where you need to
Sweet.
be.
Can we play you guys more often?
Yeah, you guys we play again on the 9th, so
Yep.
that should be interesting
Maybe
again.
that'll be a good Landry Shamit game because he's got to get going soon.
Yeah, we'll see. Like hopefully they can get him going as well.
Yep.
Just for your guys' sake. Mikal Bridges, I felt like he was there for he was like how many offensive rebounds did he get? I feel like
That's a great question.
he only had two, but it felt
Yeah,
like he
too.
grabbed two and it was like in the fourth quarter. It felt like
Yeah.
they were late offensive rebounds and it did feel like it was I don't know. Bismack Biyombo did play really well. I was really impressed with him. His defense, like down low, what do you have? 4 blocks? Yeah,
Yeah,
like
4 blocks. And he had 5 blocks last game, too. So
yeah.
he's
He was
been
gonna say
stepping up and yeah.
he was awesome down there. I do think that like even though Cam Johnson like had more points, and maybe this is just my take, but I thought Chris Paul was like your MVP
I like that. Thank you.
only because like I
Thanks for
just feel
saying
like
that.
every time like Cam Johnson offensively was your like go-to guy, but every time Chris Paul went back on the floor, he just like killed any sort of momentum for the Wolves. It was just like his vision on the court is incredible. He gets all their players going.
Exactly.
It was like every time I saw him step back on the floor, I was just
You're like, oh,
not
crap.
again. Like, can you just like have him sit down for a little bit longer
Yep.
because he really just manages the game so well. So I thought he was your guys' best player tonight.
I appreciate that feedback, man. And to be honest with you, it may not seem like it. Chris Paul kind of needed a game like tonight. Now, in all fairness, last game he had like 12 and 15 assists or something like that. Either way, he finished with 15 assists, 0 turnovers last game. Tonight, 15 points, 12 assists, only 1 turnover, 5 for 12 shooting. And like you mentioned, every time he came back in, he led that Phoenix Suns unit that would kind of calm everything down. I've mentioned it a few times on the show. This game was full of runs. Every time the Wolves would claw back into the game, it was Chris Paul and company to settle that down, hit shots, play better defense, keep the game out of track. You and I were even talking before the show. I was like, kind of at one point, I knew this game was over, but I knew your Timberwolves would kind of fight back. But Chris
Yeah,
Paul was the catalyst tonight. Doing, like you said, you mentioned his playmaking, and he's just such a great leader out there, and he trusts his teammates. He loves playing for the Phoenix Suns. Now, his shooting percentages have been pretty rough this year, but I even jokingly tweeted it out. I was like, y'all are worried about Chris Paul? This is Chris Paul, man. And don't get me wrong, I made a video talking about it, saying like Chris Paul's kind of off to a weird start, and here's the shooting percentages, but I was never worried about his playmaking. I was never worried about it's just I think we're so used to seeing a certain version of Chris Paul, and we haven't necessarily seen that. But at the same time, look what he did tonight. Go back and look at the highlights from the game against the Rockets. Like he's playing very well. It's just the shooting percentages and I guess maybe the aggressiveness aren't really there. But he's Chris Paul, man. I'm not
Yeah,
worried about it. He's gonna be just fine.
he's going to be just
Yeah,
fine for
yeah,
sure.
he's
He's one of the best in the game. He might be 37 or whatever he is
yeah,
now, but
37. Yeah,
he's still going to get every player involved. He will have the occasional night where he probably won't make as much, but for the most part, I think he's going to be an efficient shooter for the rest of the season.
yep.
He's just incredible. Minnesota fans hate him. I hate him. It's ever since the Jersey Untucked game, that just really did it for us.
All right, that's fair. I understand that. Um, moving on, Devin Booker. Yeah, it's funny, man. Devin Booker will sometimes have nights like this where, let's say, Anthony Edwards or whoever locks him down. He'll shoot like he did tonight, 6 for 18, but he still finishes with 18 points or 20 points or 22 points. That just shows how great of a player he is. And he did have 5 assists with 7 rebounds, but he got into foul trouble. But and again, there was even one sequence where Devin Booker had the ball kind of, I think, on the left side, and your Timberwolves just did such a great job of defending him to the point where he had to keep his dribble alive, even almost turned it over at one point, put up a brick shot. But again, man, he still finds a way to finish with like 18 points or 20 points. Did you see anything out of Devin Booker tonight? How do you think your Timberwolves played Devin Booker, particular Anthony Edwards? What did you think, man?
Yeah, I mean, like Anthony Edwards is good on ball. Like I've said,
Yeah.
he added 10, 11 pounds of muscle this offseason, and it kind of shows.
Yeah.
I don't think Devin Booker had the same amount of success like backing down and then getting into that fadeaway mid-range shot.
Right.
He's still like you. I mean, like, you've seen it over like the last year or two, but it's kind of the same thing with and where Edwards will put up points, but it doesn't necessarily impact the game.
Right.
It will for the most part, but like it's not to the same like
Level.
yeah, like where Booker now is like in like his first couple years where it was just like all points.
Yeah.
And now it's like if he's not hitting a shot,
It
Booker is
matters.
playing defense. He's getting other people involved. He's rebounding.
Yep.
The energy level is there every night. And I think I mean you can see it. I kind of have in my notes if I don't know, maybe it might be a little irrational. It's only so early, but I feel like Booker will finish as a top 5 MVP candidate.
Thanks for saying that, man. I appreciate you saying that, like for real.
Yeah, I would say
um,
like he's really good, and if he can lead the Suns team to a top 3, whatever seed, because I mean obviously there's a lot of stuff going on with Aiden Crowder and all that other stuff. So if he can lead this team, because I feel like a lot of people wrote off the Suns. Even I kind of did to some degree, where I thought they'd be a 6 or 7 seed, and he's already proven them wrong.
right. And I appreciate you saying that, man. Like I said, because tonight it may not seem like it, but Devin Booker has been playing at an MVP level, and of course, the national media and all the
Yeah,
quote experts like to completely forget about Booker. I keep reminding Suns fans, there was a point last year where I'm not saying he should have won the MVP, but he was literally in the top 5 for the MVP. He was playing out of his mind, and he started off the season incredible. Even again with a performance like tonight, still playing at a very high level, and he's our franchise player. And I can't say enough good things about Devin Booker. And I kind of have said this in some past live streams. It's hard to ask a player like Devin Booker to do more, but he can get to that MVP level. He can take it up a few. And I'm sure if you even ask Devin Booker right now, he'd probably agree with us saying, I can take it to another level, but it's hard to ask that considering all the years he's been with us so far and everything he's had to deal with, all the BS and everything. So,
he's had
um,
multiple 30-point games, hasn't he?
yeah, I think
Is it?
tonight was the only night I think this season he hasn't had a 30-point game, if I remember correctly. But yeah, I think it's 4 30-point games so far,
Yeah, I was
which
gonna say
is,
he's been
yeah.
incredible to watch this year.
And it's also just the consistency he's been doing it and the way he's been executing on the court, driving to the rim more, getting to the foul line, being consistent with I think he's shooting like 50 something percent, if not more, from the field. And his 3-point shot, even though he is a good 3-point shooter, sometimes the percentages aren't super great, but I think even his percentages right now are really, really good. So big shout out to Devin Booker. You guys, if you're just joining the show, we got about 40 people in here. First off, thanks to everybody that's in here. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. We're joined by my guest. Let's Talk Wolves, Timberwolves Talk. Go follow him on Twitter. Let me put your website link in the chat right now. I'll also put your Twitter in the chat right now. And then we will continue on. I do want to talk about that bench because I do see some Suns fans talking about Dario Sarge, who I do want to talk about, and some other people. So once again, even if you're not a Timberwolves fan, even if you're not a Minnesota sports fan, go follow my guest. Let's Talk Wolves. Seriously, he's a good follow, you guys. Does great content, has a podcast for all things Minnesota sports. So go check it out, you guys. That would really help me out. It would really help him out. And once again, I appreciate you all being here. So let's talk about the Suns bench, shall we? Dario Sarge. So I don't know if you've been following much, man, but Sarge hasn't really played much. He came off that I think it was an ACL injury last year. Didn't play all of last year. And I'm sure some Wolves fans are familiar with Sarge. He did have that 1 year with you guys, but he did play in Eurobasket over the summer. I don't know if you caught any of that at all. And he played pretty well. I was just more focused on how he looked during Eurobasket. I didn't care about the numbers, but he did put up some good numbers. He played well. And tonight he finally got some minutes. He wasn't playing much during the season so far. And even though he only had 1 3-point shot, few boards, he looked pretty aggressive, but he didn't play that much. So Suns fans, if you're wondering what my thoughts were, he hit that 3-point shot. Played a little aggressive, but just didn't get enough time. Monty Williams is a little weird. He sometimes, I don't know how to describe this. Like he sometimes plays players based off matchups, which obviously the Timberwolves are a big matchup problem. And I think he threw Dario in there for some size, obviously with Ayton being out. I think Jock Landale got into some foul trouble. I do want to talk about Jock Landale later, Suns fans. Did you see anything from Dario? How did Timberwolves fans like him when he was there? Do you remember any of that? That was like what, a few seasons ago?
Yeah, he was kind of a frustrating player when he was with the Wolves. And I can't recall. It's been so many years, but I'm pretty sure he wasn't a huge fan of being in Minnesota.
Yeah, because I think Philly kind of gave up on him or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, so I mean, like he was a huge part of like the Suns team, like in their success before he got injured.
Yep.
And I feel like he looks bigger to me than from when he was in Minnesota. Maybe that's just because I haven't seen him in a long time. But I feel like if he is bigger, then like that size could be a huge difference, especially with Aiden. He might be, I don't know how long is it? It's just an ankle sprain.
Yeah, he'll be out. They're gonna reevaluate him in a week, which is like November 7th when we play the Sixers. Hopefully he's back then. And I saw some clips. He was getting some shots up tonight. So hopefully he comes back soon.
Yeah, and ankle sprains are always tricky, but like if Dario Sarge can like come in and give you guys 5-15 minutes of just like competitive, like consistent like basketball, that's gonna be huge for your bench.
Exactly. Because again, I mean, Dario was a huge part of our success, in that finals run and everything. And, you talked about like his body and everything. He has been working on his body. Obviously, he had a whole year to do it, and he looked really good in Eurobasket. I think I don't want to say he's like lost weight or anything. I just think he's worked on his body, continues to work pretty well for the Phoenix Suns. And again, we haven't really gotten too much of a sample size, nothing really statistically I can give you. But I've seen some good moments from him during the preseason. He was pretty aggressive tonight. He just needs more minutes. And I think there is going to be games down the road where Monty will go to Dario Sarge due to the size, due to the experience. He can stretch the floor, hit the occasional three, plays very well with campaign. Even Dwayne Washington Jr., who doesn't get many minutes during the preseason, they're running a lot of pick and rolls together, which really surprised me. I was like, oh my God, like y'all are playing like 2-on-5 out here. You know what I mean? So hopefully Dario Sarge comes back and continues to look good. And but that's my opinion, Suns fans, if y'all are wondering what I thought of Dario Sarge tonight. I do want to jump though to Jock Landale. I don't know if you've been paying attention, man, but Jock Landale has been a pleasant surprise for us Suns fans. I've made a couple different videos about him, man. I'm legit in love with this dude. He just plays well, man. he plays hard. He's Australian. He's earning his minutes. We pretty much got him for free. I mean, we obviously paid for him, but in the NBA numbers, it was for free. He's been putting up solid numbers, sort of like Dario, can stretch the floor, set some picks, been grabbing rebounds. Again, not the best game tonight, though. I mean, 16 minutes, couldn't hit a three to save his life, but just the effort, in my opinion, from Jock Lendell. And he's going to have rough games. I think this probably was his worst game of the season tonight, but earning his minutes out there. And I'm telling you, man, Suns fans love this guy. I love this guy. I hope he has a great season. And he's only in his second year, man. Like it kind of reminds me a little bit of Nas Reed, or who'd you mention? How do you say his name? Noel or
Jalen Noel? Yeah.
Yeah. Like it kind of reminds me of that. Like just a guy getting his opportunity, playing, making shots and everything. So us Suns fans, we love Jock Lendell. And I'm telling you, keep your eye on him, man. Like he can play, man.
I mean, I've been watched every game, but I try to watch some on League Pass.
Yeah.
He's fun to watch. He just plays with energy.
Right. That's exactly the way it is, man. And he's great. I'm trying to see if there's anybody else I really want to talk about. Campaign didn't get, 14 minutes, 8 points. Campaign has been, he pretty much got played off the floor last year, especially during the playoffs and everything. But he has so far been bouncing back this season. And again, statistically, it may not seem like that. You probably think I'm crazy, but 8 points, 2 made threes. That's pretty big improvement for Cameron Payne. So we're going to, unless there's anything else you want to talk about in terms of individual players, we're going to jump to the team stats, and then we will, we can really take questions from the chat. We can look at the schedule and everything, but let me pull up the team stats here, because I know you guys won the rebounding battle. Let me just share my screen real quick. And we can kind of get your thoughts on any other particular numbers. Because, hey, no matter what you guys say, numbers don't lie. So both teams shot the ball well tonight, 46% from the field, 42% for your Wolves. Both teams, I feel like, kind of caught fire later in the game from three. I mean, the Suns finished 39.5. The Wolves 38%, but I know that was not the story earlier in the game. I feel like both of us couldn't hit a three to save our lives. Let me see what other. You guys won the rebounding battle 42 to 34. 31 assists tonight for the Phoenix Suns. Absolutely huge. And we only finished the game with 11 turnovers. So any numbers here that stand out to you in your opinion?
Yeah, the 3-point percentage for the Wolves, like, it was not good.
Right.
But it obviously is reflecting like they improved, but that was more just like a stretch like down the end of the game there where they were starting to hit more shots.
Huge play.
Let me see here.
Torrey Cox, number
Just
7,
trying to see if I missed
to the
anything.
quarterback. So this is
Points in the paint battle, y'all obviously won that, 42 to 28.
Credit Marshall, who we just
largest lead for the Suns was 18. You guys had 10 offensive rebounds compared to our 7. I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything. So Suns had 9 steals, which that's pretty good. 8 blocks as well. 4 of those belong to Bismack Biyombo, by the way. So any final thoughts on this game? I feel like we've done a really good job of breaking it all down, covering it from the most part. Any final thoughts before we take questions from the chat, before we, oh, sorry, wait, audio is making it hard to understand. What audio? Okay, I wanted to make sure I wasn't. Wait, we muted
goal now here for Ohio.
What are they talking about?
Pressure comes in. He goes to the end zone.
Sorry, I can hear the ad, but it's not like I can hear you still.
Second on the night.
That's so
Look
weird.
out.
I don't know what is
nice
going
little
on.
design.
I'm just gonna stop sharing my screen. Maybe that will fix it. Click out of all of this. All right. Anyways, mute. I don't know what's going on. Sorry, guys. My apologies. Anyways, so any final thoughts, man? Just anything you want to talk about? Anything we missed?
Not really, because I feel like the only like team stat was just like you said, like the steals and the blocks, but like the Wolves just had so many turnovers, bad passes, sloppy, and the Suns, they're competitive, they're mature, they've been there before. They're going to take advantage of those things where the Wolves are still figuring that thing out. Hopefully on November 9th, maybe they've made a little bit of adjustments and they've made some improvements by then, but we'll see.
I agree with that, man. So what we're going to do now is we are going to pull up your Timberwolves schedule. Now, we don't have to like talk about every game because we'll be here for like an entire hour. We'll just talk about the next Wolves few games, then we'll talk about the Suns next few games. Let me pull that up real quick. Give me 1 second here, you guys. Once again, you guys join, destroy the like button, share the show, go follow Timberwolves Talk. Let's Talk Wolves on Twitter. And let me see here. Just pull this up. I need to get like a producer on this show, man. So this stuff's ready to go. I appreciate all the people who are watching. Hopefully there's no ad playing this time. I couldn't even hear that for some reason. I don't know why. All right. So here is your next few games. Obviously, you've mentioned it a few times during the show. You guys play the Bucks. Last time I checked, they were 6-0. And they don't even have Chris Middleton. They have Giannis.
Yep.
They have experience. They won the championship. They stole the championship from my Suns in 2021. They have a great head coach, great all-around team. Former Phoenix Sun Javon Carter, by the way. And then you play the Rockets. They're young and scrappy. That's the next day, man. I would not want to play. Now, look, the Rockets are probably going to be a very bad team, but they are very scrappy. They have a lot of great pieces on their team. They're probably going to be good in a few years. So any thoughts? And then, New York, Phoenix, Memphis, your schedule doesn't get any easier. What are you thinking for your upcoming schedule?
I think they need to for sure win the Houston New York game because if you lose to Milwaukee, and I'm probably just marking it down as a loss against the Phoenix Suns.
I wouldn't. I
like,
love that.
Like you have to go 2-2 there. Then you can't go 1-3, 0-4 because then you're looking at 4-8. You're looking at 4-7 or whatever, or 5 and quick math off the top of my head. I mean, Memphis, it's going to be
tough.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the energy from that game just because I think they have a lot of they have a chip on their shoulder from last playoff series.
Right.
So that'll be interesting from that standpoint. But then you get Cleveland, and Orlando is also kind of one of those teams that they're struggling, but they're playing competitive against every team so far. Banchero looks good. So they've got it's a 50-50 schedule of teams they could beat and teams they'll probably get destroyed by, but those games that they should win are games that they for sure need to win because they haven't done it all season before with the other 3 losses or 4 losses now.
And look, you can disagree with me here if you want. I'm a pretty optimistic basketball fan because I watched bad Suns basketball for 10 years for the most part. And I'm pretty optimistic about some of those bad teams. I gave the Rockets a lot of credit during my last live show. Even the Magic, they're playing hard and just you can lose on any night. I referenced it earlier in the show. I said that the Suns had some really bad losses last year. I'm sure the Timberwolves, like you mentioned with the Spurs, they had a couple bad losses already. It's going to be a lot of growing pains, I think, for both of our teams. So appreciate your insight on that schedule. Can't wait to play y'all on November 9th. Now, let me quickly just go to the Suns schedule here. Let me just pull that up. Sorry, give me 1 second here, you guys. I think our next 2 games are against the Portland Trailblazers. We play them back-to-back. We have 2 days off. Yeah, our next game is November 4th against the Blazers. Give me a second here, guys. And then November 7th, we play the Sixers. It's so hard to judge the NBA right now.
Yeah.
Because there's just so many wonky records. We talked about it. The Spurs are off to a good start. The Jazz are off to a good start. I think I saw the Thunder won 4 in a row. Am I crazy? What world are we living in? But the Blazers, Damian Lillard is out, I think, for a little bit of time, but they're playing pretty good basketball. They beat us. They barely beat us, but they beat us. So we play them back-to-back November 4th and 5th. Going to be interesting to see how the Suns respond after having 2 days off and then, playing back-to-back nights. Then 1 day later playing the Sixers on the road. That starts I think a 4-game road trip or whatever. Then we play your Wolves at home. Then we play the Magic. I don't think they're going to win a lot of games, but they're going to play hard. And then the Miami Heat are also off to a pretty bad start last time I checked. Then we play the Warriors November 16th. So not going to get any easier, but really excited for this Phoenix Suns team who are now, 6-1? Pretty crazy. I think we will hit a pretty rough stretch in our schedule. Some guys are going to have bad games, nights off and everything. but pretty exciting stuff. So, anything else you want to talk about, man? Did you have any questions for me? I mean, we were kind of talking about that earlier. Any questions for me that you wanted to ask? Anything you want to share, talk about? Just let it all out, man.
Yeah, a couple questions. I mean, just like in general, I tweeted out a couple days ago because this Wolves team needs a lot of energy. They need someone. And I know Crowder's sitting at home. I've not even like looked at like the trade machine to see how that even work out. But what are the Phoenix Suns looking for in a Jay Crowder trade?
Damn, man, that's an excellent question. And I really wish I could be inside James Jones' head, because James Jones obviously is a great GM. He's completely turned this team around, yada, yada, yada. James Jones is great, but he's very quiet with his moves. He doesn't let anything leak. Like if it gets leaked, you got to have some damn good sources. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he does a lot of like trades and moves, like a Jock Lendell, for example, that nobody's thinking about. So him and his team must really be doing the work. Jay Crowder's on a $10 million expiring deal. I don't know. I really don't. And I've seen so many like trade theories and so many trade deals. It's like, I doubt he goes to a rebuilding team, and I doubt he goes to like a competitor. Like someone mentioned last stream, he's going to get traded to the Warriors. I'm like, he's not going to the Warriors.
No.
Maybe the Minnesota Timberwolves is a possibility. I mean, obviously y'all are in our conference and everything, but I'll just say this: $10 million expiring deal, probably wants to play for a contender. And I don't know what happened, man. They even referenced it on the broadcast tonight. Chris Haynes apparently spoke to Jay Crowder, and he said the business of basketball is taking its course. I'm like, what happened? What got so bad that you decided to not even show up to training camp and media day? You know what I mean? And like, we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but it's a lot of question marks, a lot of fog. I really wish I could give you a legit answer.
Yeah, because from just like everything I've heard, like mixed things of like he wants the new contract, or he was upset that they gave Cam Johnson the starting job. But I feel like Jay Crowder's a big enough competitor where if they came to him and said, we're going to start Cam Johnson, that he wants to win so badly that he'd come off the bench. And so, yeah, like the trade partner, it's like, it's difficult because you're not like the Suns are, I don't know if they're looking for a four, if they're looking for a guard or whatever, but there's not many teams out there that are going to trade it's hard to make a trade with another competitive team for a four for another four. Like
exactly.
So that's the difficulty in that.
And then I forgot to reference, and you referenced it, you know, there is the contract rumors. It's also the Cam Johnson thing. He apparently claimed that it wasn't Cam Johnson starting over him, but his quote in itself, I made a whole video about it, was a little confusing. It's like, okay, wait, if you're not upset that Cam Johnson's starting, is it because you wanted to get paid? And it's like, if you truly loved this team, you would be here. You know what I mean?
It's weird.
Yeah.
If you want to get paid, a lot of players just show up and they perform well so that they get
or they don't perform well and then go to.
I don't feel like this is helping his contract for like next year.
And look, I'm not saying Jay Crowder's a terrible guy, and I know that Suns fans are pretty much against him right now, and that's understandable. But it's just a lot of fog. You know what I mean? A lot of fog.
Yeah,
it's cloudy, and your guess is as good as mine. Like for real. Like I don't think anybody besides maybe Chris Haynes, who reported that story, and Jay Crowder and his team are the only people that know. You know what I mean? And James Jones, like I said, man, he's gonna keep the stuff pretty quiet. And I feel I like to joke and say, like, I feel like on a random Tuesday, that's when we're gonna hear about it. Today's Tuesday, but and it might take a while, you know, like because December 15th or whatever, or like January, that's when more contracts can get traded. Maybe, but and Monty Williams sort of referenced this. He said, like, I would have liked to have someone in before the season started. You got to kind of wonder if they should have traded him by now, but
yeah, it's interesting. That's like one that I've like, I mean, I want Minnesota to trade for him, but I don't really know if there's really much for Minnesota to give that would entice Phoenix.
Right. And again, like with all due respect to your roster, like I doubt you guys would trade a Nas Reed, especially with how he's been playing, especially
Yeah.
tonight. And I don't know what the Suns would want. You already traded away half your draft picks. So
Yeah, so that's what I mean. Like, we don't really have draft picks. Like, we have a couple of bigs, but I don't really know if they fit
and
what
that's the
Phoenix is looking
thing
for.
too. It may not just all be on Phoenix. There's so many other teams out there where like you're not going to trade this guy. You're not going to trade draft picks and all that. It's like it's very complex. I would not want to be James Jones right now, like for real, because
Yeah, because if the Suns have gotten a good offer, they would have moved him by now. And I don't think many teams are lining up for Jay Crowder.
exactly. And even though I'm sure a lot of teams want him, they're not, like you said, they're not lining up saying, give us Jay Crowder, we'll give you whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
I like this comment here. I love Crowder for what he initially brought to the team, but it's time for both sides to move on. Excited to hate him again. So Suns fans are really torn on Jay Crowder, but he did bring a lot to this team, man. And he brings a lot to any team. He brings that veteran experience. He's been to the finals back-to-back years, brings that toughness. For a while, he could guard your best player, you know what I mean? Especially on the wing and everything, and on the perimeter and all that. And he still brings that defensive toughness. But Suns fans are pretty against Jay Crowder right now, and I don't blame them. So I don't know, man. Any other questions that you wanted to ask? Anything else you want to chat about here while we're still going strong?
So like Bismack Biyombo played well, and it's kind of been the case whenever Aiden's been out.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's a Chris Paul thing or if it's just the Suns, because I think that was their whole reasoning for not wanting to pay Aiden, because they saw that we can pay like 50% less for another center, whether that's like a JaVale McGee type.
Yeah.
Do you think DeAndre Ayton gets traded by the deadline? Because I don't know if he doesn't look like he wants to be. And I guess I haven't watched every single game, every possession, but the possessions that I have seen, he doesn't look that engaged in it 100% of the time.
And what did we talk about earlier? How you were talking about how Anthony Edwards sometimes isn't fully there, especially like when he's playing against a bad team. Now, it's too small of a sample size.
Yeah, exactly.
But I feel like Ayton, for the most part, has played pretty well. I think there was one game before he got hurt where I'm like, dude, why are you even here right now? Like, you're not even playing. And sometimes it's against the bigger teams. You think it would be the opposite. Sometimes he doesn't show up against the bigger teams. Very frustrating. But I feel like the vibes have gotten better.
Yeah.
He apparently reportedly worked out everything with Monty Williams. I don't think it was as dramatic as like I was making it out to be, or the media. Monty Williams even talked about how like he gives his players space. He doesn't talk to them during the off season. But a lot of this Ayton situation has been a little strange, especially with the contract and not extending him. And JaVale McGee was here once, and he was playing well, and Bismack Biyombo, and now Jock Lindell. But the Suns did match that contract like seconds, not minutes,
that was
not
big.
days.
That was a really big thing for him.
Exactly. So I feel like it's getting better. I wish we could be in the future a little bit, and I could be like, yeah, he's definitely getting traded, or no. I would say right now, no. I think he is playing very well. I do think, though, and I don't want to put unrealistic expectations on Ayton, but I think he has to be a borderline all-star. I'm serious. And that's tough to do. It's tough to do with a Rudy Gobert and a Karl Anthony Towns and a Nikola Jokic and all them. But seriously, like, he's got to be a borderline all-star. You got to prove that you were worth that money, man. And so far he has. You can't control injuries. It is what it is. But so right now, to answer your question, no. But if he's playing pretty bad near the deadline, that those trade rumors and the narratives and the stories are going to be coming out. Like, he's got to prove it, man. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if I had a pick, I would say he does, but I haven't watched. Like, I don't want to like say too much because I haven't watched every game. I'm watching other. I'm not watching other NBA games. I'm watching the Timberwolves, so I can't really speak fully on like what you can. But just like from some of the possessions I've seen. But hopefully, I mean, I do hope it works out, because I do want to see the Suns have the success. I want to see Ayton when I like seeing these other teams build up their team through the draft and not just paying players.
Right.
So I do want to see Ayton have success there in Phoenix.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you saying that. And yeah, that's kind of what I think they're going for. I think that's why, despite what happened in Game 7, despite the whole offseason controversy and everything and all that drama, all the stories, I think that's why they matched that contract. They worked everything out. The vibes are good right now in Phoenix. And, we obviously don't know what's going to happen, but I think things are going to be fine for now. I just really think he needs to prove it. And it's not just on him. Devin Booker's got to prove it. He's on the cover of 2K23. You know what I mean? And Mikal Bridges as well. He got extended recently. Cam Johnson got denied his extension. So he's got to prove he's an extension player and all that. The Suns bench has got to be better. This whole team, they legit have a chip on their shoulder, obviously because of what happened in the playoffs and everything. But it's going to be an interesting season, man. Full storyline. So
For sure.
On that note, man, I think that's it. I think we've done a pretty good job of covering everything. Any final thoughts? Any takeaways? Anything you want to add before we get out of here?
I mean, no, I feel like we really hit on a lot of stuff. I'm really excited to see the Wolves grow over the season. I know it's still only 7 whatever games. It's just tough to watch. Like, it's not fun to watch them play right now, especially when last year's team was.
Pains. Yeah,
it's like before when they were really bad. It was like you just watched your player that you just drafted. It was fun, like in that sense. Like now it's go time. You got rid of your draft picks. You went all in. So hopefully that kind of figures itself out. November 9th should be fun again. I think I'm going to that game. I believe I am.
Nice.
So it should be a good game. Hopefully Minnesota has a little bit better of luck. But, I mean, if the Wolves are not doing well, I do hope the Suns have the success this year. It's fun to see them win. It's I don't know. I do enjoy watching the Phoenix Suns play.
Thank you, man. We appreciate you, and we appreciate all the kind things you've been saying. Right back at you, man. I really do believe that your Wolves will figure it out. Again, you're going to have some growing pains, but I think you guys got a bright future. And, we'll see what happens, man. That's why we love basketball. That's why we love sports.
Yep.
Speaking of sports, go check out the website, link down below. Go follow Timberwolves Talk on Twitter. Let's Talk Wolves. Go check out all of his content. I mean, I know nothing about football or college football or any of that. I'm sure the chat does. Vikings are pretty good this year, right? I think that's what I kind of
6-1 just made a trade for TJ Hawkinson. So
there you go, man.
Skull, baby.
So go follow, go check out that content. Again, even if you're not a Timberwolves fan, go show him some love. Go tell him he did great on the show tonight. I thought that this was a great show, man. I know you said you're probably going to that game November 9th, but if you ever want to be on this channel again, bro, let me know. As Applebite Music says right here, make sure to smash that like button. Even if you're watching afterwards, smash the like button. Leave your thoughts, comments, and opinions down below. Thank you for joining, everybody. Y'all are awesome. The Phoenix Suns are 6-1. Let's celebrate, guys. Appreciate everybody being here. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. The best way to keep supporting me, you guys, is just to keep watching. There's obviously a lot of great Suns content out there, but you guys keep supporting me. Y'all are awesome. And we'll see you guys next time. Peace.